All right, everybody, welcome to this week at Church 520 for the weekend recap.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us. If you would, hit that like and subscribe button and all that fun jazz
You should.
as we go and talk about what's happening in the Bible.
Yeah.
We're going to go over what we covered this week at Church 520.
It was a lot, so hold on.
Hold on to your britches.
Hold on to your bippies. I don't know what bippies are. I'm sorry if that's inappropriate. Let's just
So,
say
if you
ears.
remember last week, we covered the fact that David forgave Absalom and that Absalom steals the hearts of Israel and then makes a cute coup against David, right?
Yes.
So, we're going to pick that up in 2 Samuel 16.
Yes.
Where David's on the run because of the coup, right?
The cute coup.
David's on the run. He's already kind of went up the Mount of Olives.
Yeah.
And kind of said, okay, you guys go back and send word once you've heard things.
Yeah.
Right? So as he's traveling, after he's gone past the summit, the tippy top of the mountain, Ziba comes up.
Don't stop. Mm-hmm.
And gives him some gifts. Do you remember who Ziba is?
Ziba is the servant
Of
Saul.
Yep.
But then David essentially hired him to take care of Mephibosheth, Saul's broken-legged, lame son.
Jonathan's son.
Jonathan, that's right. Saul's grandson, that's what I meant. You remember Mephibosheth got his legs broken when they were running.
Mm-hmm.
The nurse was running. Anyway, then Ziba and his family were hired to take care of Mephibosheth and his family and all of the lands.
I like how you say hired.
It sounds better than given.
Well, that's what it was. They were told, you're going to do this.
Okay, but it's servant, not slave. So they were getting paid.
Either way, it wasn't a question.
No, he was the king. He said, you're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, okay. And he
could
have said, no, thank you. But it was a good job.
And he could have said, off with your head.
True. There is that as well. But.
Right. So this guy is supposed to be the servant to Mephibosheth.
Yes.
Okay. Supposed to be taking care of the land so that Mephibosheth will never go without.
Right.
Even though David said he's going to eat at my table anyway.
Right.
I still gave him everything that Saul had. So he comes up with a care package, so to speak. Right. And it had a couple of donkeys. Mm-hmm. It had
food and
drinks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And David's like, what are you doing with these?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And Ziba was like, it's for you so that people can ride and you've got food and drink while you're in the wilderness.
For your soldiers and for your men and families.
And he says, hey, where's your master's son? And he said, hey, he's back in Jerusalem, pledging allegiance to his family and saying that his grandfather's kingdom is going to come back into existence, essentially.
Yeah, he's thinking that because Absalom is taking it and David's out, that maybe he'll be the one sitting.
Well, that's what he's saying. He's saying.
That's what Ziba is saying.
That Mephibosheth is saying.
Right.
Yep.
Secondhand information. We don't really know.
Secondhand information.
Yeah.
So David goes, forget that, dude. Everything that was his is now yours. Which is kind of funny because as a king on the run and he still thinks he can give away property.
But also I'd be like, thank you. I'm like, okie dokie, I'll take it.
Well, and that's what he did. He's like, I humbly bow before you that I might find favor in your sight, my lord.
Yes.
So,
Obviously, as one does.
As one does.
Mm-hmm.
So, David gives away property, right, to somebody who is seemingly giving him bad information. And then he continues on. And then there was a man.
Well, we don't know if it's bad information. Mephibosheth might be trying to.
It would be bad for information for you to say, hey, this guy that you took care of is now going against you.
Yeah, that would be difficult information to receive.
Yep.
Okay. I thought you were saying, like, bad intelligence. But we don't actually know.
So, the king keeps going on. And when he gets to a town of Ba'urim, there was a man there that was part of Saul's family.
Shimei.
His name's Shimei, right? And he came out cursing constantly against David and really just throwing stones and
not a fan.
Spitting mad, one might say.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Yeah. And essentially it says to David, you're evil, you're bloodthirsty, and because of that, all of Saul's family's blood is on your hands. And that's the reason that Absalom has taken over, because God willed it.
Yeah.
Right? So then Abishai says, let me rip his head off.
Yeah. David said no.
Yeah. But David said no. The Lord told him to come curse me, so just let him be. Let him do what he's going to do. And we'll just keep on trucking. So they did.
They kept trucking.
And
guess what Shimei kept doing?
Well, he kept doing his things, right?
Kicking dust, kicking rocks.
Throwing rocks, yep. So, but...
It's a very relaxing journey for them. Just kidding.
Now, the people and the king became weary, and then they refreshed themselves, it says. Means they took a rest, right? So,
afternoon nappy.
Meanwhile, and Absalom is back in Jerusalem, right? He's got the men of Israel, and he's got Ahithophel with him, which, reminder, is David's counselor, one of his advisors.
A little bit shady.
And then Hushai comes up, who is David's friend.
The one that he was like, go back and be a spy for me.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yep.
From a couple weeks ago.
So he goes up to Absalom and says, long live the king. Long live the king. And Absalom's like...
Which one? That's what I would think in my head. Which one?
It could be a thing you would think.
But you didn't.
But he's like, where is your loyalty? Why? Where is your friend? Like, what? Why are you doing
Why are you saying long live the king to me when I know that you're friends with David?
Yep. And why didn't you go with him?
Yeah.
Right?
And he was like, well, I tried. He didn't
Well, he didn't say that.
He didn't say that out loud. That was an inside thought.
Yep. It was an inside intrusive thought that he did not let come out. However, he did say that whoever the people choose and whoever God chooses, I will align with them.
Yes.
So seemingly, since you've been chosen, here I am
with you.
Yep. So, and that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
And then Absalom wanted some advice from Ahithophel, right?
Yeah.
And what we should do next, because did he have a plan? Did he have a mission of phase 2? Nope. He just wanted all the toys. Now that he's got all the toys, he doesn't necessarily know what to do.
Nope.
And then if Ahithophel really advises in something that is quite gross.
Yeah. It's quite, it's not great. I mean,
it's gross.
I said it's not great.
It's gross.
It's absolutely yuck. He says, go into the concubine house and concubine all of them.
No.
Your dad's concubines. Or David's. Yeah, your dad's.
I don't think you quite. Not into the concubine house.
Yeah.
We're going to put a tent on top of the house so that everybody can see you going into the concubines.
Yeah.
Public display.
Yeah, but was it not a tent with sides?
It could have been a tent with sides, but everybody knew what he was doing.
People still like knew
Yep.
that people were going in and out and what was happening in there.
It's like the fade to black in the old movies. You knew what they were wanting you to think about.
Yeah. I much prefer that to when people like get a little bit too far. I'm like, once they start kissing, fade to black.
Yep.
We
for
can,
sure.
We can figure it out.
Right.
But they wanted you to not have to use your imagination.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's not that they didn't want them to not use their imagination. They wanted everybody to see what Absalom was doing so that it would say, oh, well, David hates this guy, so therefore we hate David.
Yeah.
Right? And just keep sowing that division. And yeah, so that's what he did. And then Ahithophel said, but wait, there's more.
Also.
Right? He says, hey, let me go and get David. Mm-hmm. We're going to beat him around, and then we're going to take all his people away from him.
Yeah. Well, it was all of his people are going to run away.
No, no.
All the people who are with him will flee, and I will strike only the king.
Then I will bring back all the people to you.
So they flee, and then he rounds them up.
He wants to.
Like sheeps.
He wants to bring them back.
Well, there you have it. They're going to run, and he's going to round them up with a lasso.
And then Absalom says, that's a pretty good idea, even the elders of Israel. However...
Let's see what my new friend has to say.
Yeah, he did ask for a second opinion from Hushai. And he's like, hey, what do you think about this? If you think it's bad, speak up. Mm-hmm. And he says, it's bad. And
let's not do that.
Hushai actually says, hey, you can go after him like that, but the people that are with your father are mighty men, aka special forces.
Yeah.
If you do that, your people are going to die.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the people's hearts that you have won will turn to your father. Mm-hmm. Because he will be victorious. So instead, why don't you gather everybody from Israel to you and then go attack him in person, right? And when you do, if he flees to the city, take ropes with you so you can wrap ropes around the city and pull it into the river.
You might get right into the waters.
Yep. Pull it right into the river.
Not Jerusalem, just a city.
So Absalom says, hey, this advice is better than Ahithophel's advice. So therefore, God purposed the good advice of Ahithophel to be defeated.
Mm-hmm. And not good advice like, wow, that was really good advice. But like an advice that would have been good for the king that, he said, mm-mm.
Which is a very interesting thing. Do you remember what was talked about last chapter when David was escaping? What happened when he heard that Ahithophel was with Absalom?
I don't know.
He prayed and asked that his advice be made foolishness.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's a good one.
So God actually heard prayer and had it come about.
Yeah.
So very cool. Very awesome. So with that was what we covered this week. And the two key takeaways that we saw this week was that you need to test what you hear. Definitely. There was a lot of people telling people a lot of different things this time.
And it is almost all wrong.
Right. It's not, or even if it would, even if it would accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, it wasn't good information.
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
it could have been good worldly information, but not
Right.
necessarily good biblical information
Mm-hmm.
or righteous information,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all throughout the Bible, God tells us to test what you hear, test it against Scripture, test it about what you know about me,
Mm-hmm.
and all of these things. And we looked at passages in Isaiah, Acts, and First Thessalonians that all say the same thing, that when you hear something, you need to test it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it ain't right, be done with it.
Toss it and
Right.
leave it.
And the other thing that you can see in this, and we see it come to fruition in these verses, is that God hears prayers. When things are tough, when things are good, when things are, not going your way, He still hears you, even in the hard times. Countless times through all of Israel's history, God has heard their prayers when they've been down and out. Almost always all by their own doing, right?
Yeah.
Or a consequence of their own doing.
They did a lot of complaining.
Right.
And God still heard them and took care of them.
Because we have to remember that this thing that David is going through is part of a punishment for what he did with Bathsheba.
Oh, right.
Right?
Right.
So Absalom doing this thing, which is referenced back when in the chapter with Bathsheba, is that I'm going to give your wives to another, and he's going to forget the exact wording, essentially disgrace you.
Yeah.
Right. And go into your wives.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that happened to be his son, which is so gross. But
we don't need to dwell on that, but that's yucky.
Yeah, God said, I will bring constant wrath and constant strife into your life because you have done this thing, because you have caused such pain and anguish.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that are going to happen to you. And even in this punishment, David cries out in prayer and says, please make this guy's advice foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
And God answers that prayer.
Yeah.
Right?
Even in the midst of his punishment.
Even in the midst of his punishment.
He's still hearing.
Still hearing. And today, he definitely hears our prayers when it comes to strengthening of spirit and moving forward and all of those things, so that we can be out there spreading the gospel and preaching his word boldly. Right. Which is definitely what Paul asked for, even for himself in Colossians 4. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we covered this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had some fantastic food. We smoked some tri-tip that came out absolutely great, especially because thanks to Alethea making her own a little spice mix.
I did.
It was so delish. Of course. And of course we had games and fun times with everybody and just good conversation, and
we had some fantastic sides that people brought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it was really great.
We also got to eat outside again because the weather was lovely. So if you would like to join us, go ahead and put down in the comment you would like to join, so we can get you the information for you to join us. If not, go ahead and comment below. Tell us maybe a hard time that you went through and that God answered your prayer. Or maybe there's something you want to know. You got a question.
Or maybe you need some prayer now.
Yeah, or maybe you need some prayer. Go ahead and let us know. We'd gladly pray for you.
Yeah.
So with that, we bid you adieu.
Adieu.
Thanks for being with us. Bye.
We're going to adieu. Instead of bye. Adieu.
Adieu.